Let everyone else call your idea crazy, just keep going. Don't stop. Don't even think about stopping until you get there, and don't give much thought to where there is. Whatever comes, just don't stop. In this book's summary of Phil Knight's Shoe Dog, you'll learn how he led a team of creative misfits, how to stand your ground in major lawsuits and handle a truly infamous scandal, and how to build one of the more powerful brands the world has ever seen. Introduction. What am I gaining? Observe the eccentric origins and meteoric rise of a footwear empire. Just do it is undoubtedly a well-known slogan associated with footwear giant Nike. It captures the adventurous spirit of Nike co-founder Phil Knight during the company's early years. In these summaries, you will learn how Knight stumbled his way to greatness, reaching out to business people around the world with no preparation to break into the running shoe industry. You will learn how he led a team of creative misfits, defended himself in 2 major lawsuits, and dealt with a truly infamous scandal, all while building one of the world's most powerful brands. These summaries will also teach you why the name Nike is ideal for running shoes, how a new type of glue helps factory workers avoid cancer, and why an Olympic coach experimented with fish skin shoes. Key Idea 1. The success of Nike began with a crazy idea and a trip around the world. In 1962, Phil Knight had recently graduated from business school. He was timid and a poor salesman. However, this did not prevent him from pursuing a vision he had. Phil desired to import Japanese running shoes into the United States and had his eye on the Tiger brand manufactured by Onitsuka. During his time at Stanford Business School, he first conceived the concept. His professors, classmates, and even his father did not think much of it at the time. Phil nonetheless traveled across the Pacific to pitch his audacious proposal to a group of Japanese businessmen. Phil was astounded when the CEO of Onitsuka complimented his timing and inquired about the name of the company with which he would be working. Unprepared in every way, he blurted out Blue Ribbon. Then, Onitsuka agreed to send him 300 pairs of Tiger shoes to begin his business. For several months, Phil would sell Japanese shoes out of the trunk of his car. After securing the contract with Onitsuka, Phil embarked on a global journey. During his travels, he found a great deal of inspiration in the sights and experiences he encountered. Much of what he discovered about the cultures he explored would shape his future. For example, Phil was particularly inspired by the Acropolis of Athens. He spent hours upon hours standing in front of the temple of Nike, the goddess of victory. Years later, Phil discovered a play titled The Knights by the ancient Greek playwright Aristophanes. In it, a warrior presents the king with a new pair of shoes at the Nike temple. Feature 2. Former running coach of Phil Knight who modified the initial Tiger shoes they received and introduced Blue Ribbon. Many individuals have someone in their lives whom they admire and respect. For Phil Knight, this individual was Bill Bowerman, his former running coach. Bill's approval gave Phil the self-assurance he needed to pursue his dreams. In contrast, Bill was a genuine shoe dog. Shoe dog is an industry term for a shoe-obsessed individual. This individual understands the role of footwear in allowing men and women to confidently stride into the future. When Phil ran for Bill, he served as an unofficial shoe test subject for his coach. Bill was constantly conducting experiments to determine how minute changes in footwear affected the performance of his athletes. To achieve this, he would disassemble shoes and reassemble them with whatever materials he believed would make them an asset rather than a mere necessity. His primary objective was to create the lightest possible shoes, a characteristic that would later become a trademark of the Nike brand. Bill was so dedicated to this objective that he once substituted cod skin for leather to make a pair of lighter shoes. When Phil returned from Japan, he approached Bill and asked him to become his business partner at Blue Ribbon. Bill agreed, which gave Phil a tremendous confidence boost. He started to believe that his crazy idea might have merit. Indeed, the collaboration was fruitful. Again, timing was key. During Blue Ribbon's infancy, Bill's coaching career was gaining momentum. He even instructed future Olympians. Bill increased brand awareness by modifying imported Tiger shoes for his star runners, thereby assisting Phil in selling more pairs. Phil also sent Bill's first modified shoe prototype, the Cortez, to Onitsuka with the suggestion that the company produce these performance-tested new shoes. Onitsuka agreed, and Blue Ribbon's first sales success was the Cortez. In this manner, Bill assisted the startup company's launch. However, Blue Ribbon's continued success was largely due to Phil's unconventional yet brilliant employees. Essential Idea 3 talented eccentrics comprised the original Blue Ribbon team, and they all contributed to crucial decision-making. As Blue Ribbon expanded, Phil assembled a team of trustworthy individuals who in turn trusted him. But Blue Ribbon employees were not your typical corporate types. Instead, They were a group of brilliant outcasts who formed a formidable team. They may have worked so well together because they did not belong together. This allowed each team member to see past a colleague's quirks and recognize their genius. No one felt restraint was necessary. Blue Ribbon employees all believed in Phil and his vision from the beginning. Jeff Johnson, the company's first full-time employee, worked tirelessly alongside Bill Bowerman to design innovative shoes. A few times per year, Phil would host Butt Faces, his version of a team-building weekend, to keep the Blue Ribbon team strong. Before getting drunk, everyone could yell at each other at this event. It served as a reminder that no one was above ridicule. However, drunken shouting matches were not Phil's only means of maintaining morale. He also included his team in numerous business decisions. Phil followed General Patton's advice when it came to his daily work: don't tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do and allow their results to surprise you. Phil, for instance, never instructed Jeff Johnson on how to perform his duties. He never criticized Jeff for sending him countless letters on a variety of topics, including advertising inquiries, poems, and even jokes. Phil also involved his team when larger decisions had to be made. In 1971, the company decided to stop selling Onitsuka shoes and begin manufacturing its own. However, the Blue Ribbon brand was unsuitable for this transition, necessitating the development of a successor company. Instead of branding this new business himself, Phil solicited suggestions from his employees. Surprisingly, Jeff Johnson received the name Nike in a dream. Phil agreed, recalling the impression the Temple of Nike had made on him in Athens so many years ago. Essential Idea Onitsuka filed 4 lawsuits, and the government threatened Nike, but the company persisted. Numerous successful entrepreneurs are aware that fame and wealth are perpetually beset by obstacles and pitfalls. Specifically, 2 significant lawsuits threatened to stop Phil Knight's career in its tracks. In 1973, Onitsuka attempted to sue Blue Ribbon in Japan for costs incurred as a result of Blue Ribbon's breach of contract, which occurred when Blue Ribbon began manufacturing and distributing Nike shoes. Blue Ribbon sued Onitsuka in the United States for breach of contract and trademark infringement to defend itself. Blue Ribbon had an exclusive distribution contract for Tiger's track and field line in the United States. Phil, however, had a source within Onitsuka who informed him that an Onitsuka executive was planning a trip to the United States to search for a replacement distributor. Phil, armed with this knowledge, shifted his attention to building his new company, Nike. Eventually, Blue Ribbon was awarded a favorable verdict in the lawsuit. The judge stated that his decision was based on which of the 2 companies was more trustworthy, and in this case, Blue Ribbon was the more trustworthy partner. Onitsuka has been ordered to pay restitution. This was only the initial significant threat to Phil and his work. In 1977, Nike was informed that it owed $25 million to the government. The trouble began when Nike's competitors in the United States, Keds, and Converse, collaborated to uncover an obscure customs law known as the American Selling Price Law, which imposed significantly higher customs duties on certain types of shoes. They charged Nike with infractions. But Phil would not surrender without a fight. Phil's belief in Nike's innocence helped him to endure a stressful situation. In spite of the fact that Phil wanted the government to completely withdraw its claim, he ultimately followed the advice of a trusted advisor and, as a diplomatic gesture, settled the claim for $9 million. Phil believed that if he fought the government's claim tooth and nail, he would never regain its goodwill, which his business might need in the future. Essential Idea 5. Phil Knight feared that an IPO would compromise Nike's unique culture, but the company's spirit remained intact. Clearly, Phil encountered some difficulties on his way to the top. It required a great deal of effort to keep going. How did Nike evolve into the company it is today? Phil knew that he didn't want to lose, even though he wasn't always sure what winning meant. This was in part because he feared disappointing his father, and in part because he believed work should be both playful and meaningful. The combination persuaded him to avoid a passive existence that seemed to slip by. While Phil was aware that taking Nike public could solve some financial issues, he was hesitant to do so because he wanted to keep his business playful and fun. In a nutshell, Phil's business philosophy was grow or die. This meant that, aside from the modest salaries he and his employees received, all profits were reinvested in the business, thereby contributing to its expansion. This financing strategy made Phil dependent on banks, which frequently denied his requests for large loans. Japanese trading company Nisho assisted Nike with financing in lieu of banks. But ultimately, the $25 million lawsuit brought by the government compelled Phil to take Nike public through an IPO. However, He remained concerned that an IPO would deprive him of control over the company and its unique code of ethics, thereby transforming Nike into merely another corporate machine. One of Phil's colleagues had the brilliant idea to design the company's share structure to prevent this, ensuring that Nike remained in control. The company continues to take pride in its integrity, which it attributes to a significant portion of its global success. Nike strives to remain true to its values by enhancing factory working conditions and treating sponsored athletes with respect. Since its inception, Nike has approached setbacks with the same level of integrity and vigor that Phil demanded of every employee. This mentality has maintained customer loyalty through thick and thin. Nike is currently exerting significant effort to improve labor standards for its factory workers. In the 1990s, the company was the subject of a damaging report about the deplorable working conditions in Asian sweatshops. Nike, like numerous other businesses, rented space in these factories. However, the report's author anticipated that Nike's brand recognition would garner media attention, and as a result, the footwear company became the focal point of the story. Nike had worked diligently to increase the wages of its factory employees, but in one country, a senior government official stated that factory workers earning more than physicians would be detrimental to the economy. But after the embarrassing revelation, Phil and his team realized they had to work harder. The invention of a water-based bonding agent for attaching shoe uppers to shoe soles was one of the primary means by which the company improved factory conditions. This was a significant occurrence. Historically, the rubber room in a shoe factory was the most carcinogenic area. Nike's new bonding agent eliminates 97% of the toxins found in its predecessor. In fact, Nike shared the new adhesive with its competitors, who subsequently adopted it in their factories. And Nike's dedication to honesty does not end at the factory door. Phil considers all Nike-sponsored athletes to be actual people, not merely marketing tools. Many Nike-sponsored athletes have become Phil's personal friends as a result of this respect. When Phil's son passed away in a scuba diving accident, for instance, every Nike athlete wrote or called to express their condolences. In the years that followed, Phil became particularly close with one athlete, Tiger Woods. Few global companies have as much heart as Nike. In conclusion. Final result. The primary theme of this book is: the history of shoe giant Nike is one of crazy ideas and humble beginnings. There is no limit to what you can achieve if you believe in your ideas, think creatively, and remain true to your principles, as demonstrated by the company's meteoric rise to fame. Practical guidance. Surround yourself with faithful people. To launch a successful business, you must surround yourself with people who believe in you and your idea and are not motivated solely by money. Passionate employees will be the most involved team members you can find, and they will stick with you when times get tough. Click the link in the description box to get the book if you want to know more, because there's more to this great book by Phil Knight. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video with family and friends.